Your attention please, Paul and Alex are required to proceed to the gate immediately.
What?
No way.
What is happening here?
This is the last call for the Layovers podcast.
Really?
Come on, man. This is our thing. We got this.
Oh, yeah.
And we made it.
Of course, geeks.
Flight 56 to KIX. Hi, Alex.
Oh, nice. I'm going there in October for the first time.
Yeah, Kansai. This is an interesting airport. The reason, though, we chose that airport is because now I'm not only talking to Alex, the creator of shows like Attache, not Alex, my buddy and co-host of the podcast, my good friend. Also, we work together, but the author. You have a book out. I mean, not yet out, but we were thinking of talking about this book whilst it was being crowdfunded, and actually you smashed the goal so quickly.
Yeah.
Tell us about the book.
I'm very excited. We launched yesterday the Attache Guide to Travel Volume 1 on Kickstarter. And the book project was actually the first Attache idea that I had.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
And it just felt like too much of a pain in the butt to do. So we did the app and then the show, and the app is in the ether. But yeah, we launched and we reached our goal on day one. Thanks in large part to you and your cheerleading and your contributions and everything like that. So I have unlimited thanks to give to you. But yeah, it's exciting, and we still have 27 days to go as of today, which is the 22nd of June of funding. So we're going to do a lot more fun stuff on there.
Yeah, I've actually stayed up until it was funded. That happened at 1:26 a.m.
Yeah,
London
you're better
time.
than me. I went to bed.
Yeah, I told you, I promised you, I will actually. Greg Annandale, who's also part of your project, was also with me, and we were like exchanging back and forth. At some point, you were 9 pounds close to the goal, and it was not moving for like 20 minutes. We're like, come on. It was, lots of fun.
It was nice to wake up in the morning and glance at my phone and see we'd broken through that ceiling. So, but it's still there. If you want to find it, I think the easiest way to do is just to go on Kickstarter.com and search for travel. And there's only 4 things on there, and ours is obviously Attache Guide to Travel. If you want to get involved at all, I would be honored no matter what you pledge. There's kind of some fun stuff. If you want to drop $3,000, I'll come to your city and film a show with you in it. No one's got that one yet. It's still there. There's only one of those.
And actually, we had quite a few listeners of this show
yes.
because we also use the Layovers Twitter and Facebook accounts to talk about this. And we had quite a few. Actually, some of the names were like, wow, Mathieu was one of them.
Yeah, people
and
have been
others.
unbelievably generous. Kobus in Cape Town has been just awesome, not only with his contribution, but just been a huge cheerleader. Rich as well in Cape Town, both of whom were in a very amusing segment on our Cape Town episode. But it's just been wonderful. It's been life affirming. And I mean that. It's been it's been an extraordinary process because people have been so kind and generous financially and spiritually. It's been wonderful to see. Now we actually have to go and make the book.
And you are also, because it's a travel guide, you also are talking about airports. So there is a link to Layover, guys. It's not here.
Yeah, there's a
only
whole
to make a
section
plug.
on airports for every city.
Yes.
Including
and actually,
Osaka?
yeah, which is why, because of it's volume 1, Asia and Oceania. So this is why we wanted to go back to Asia for this show. You haven't been to KIX, Kansai. I've been several times. I'll talk about it at the end of the show. It's quite a fascinating airport with another fascinating story. It seems like all Japanese airports have some convoluted and tough history behind them. But again, congrats, Alex. I'm really, really amazed. I was backer number 7. I couldn't be number 1 for crying out loud, but in my heart I am. And also your latest episode, because that's a tie-in with one of our previous episodes about Berlin, Attache on YouTube, is out, and you are mentioning Brennborg, and you are mentioning a few of the things, of course, in less details that we went through in the episode about Berlin, about Schoenfeld. But I mean, look at it, guys. It's a cool episode as well. Since we are on doing some plugs, I want to do 2 quick ones. One is simply for a friend. Oli X is based here. Has nothing really to do about aviation, but he's an awesome guy and he's a crazy dude. He's going to attempt to basically rowing for 14 months around the circumpolars. He's going to go around.
Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. There's no money involved. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. Guys, I promise the show notes will be back very shortly. It's on ralu.com, RALLO.com. You look for only X. He's simply looking for awareness. He's looking for 2 million people to just say, hey, I'm supporting you. There's no money involved. It's just about creating awareness because he wants to raise money for sponsorship. He's a crazy guy. I love him. He's done already stuff like that, like crazy adventures. I know it's not air travel, but it's another way of traveling. I mean, roaring in the dark seas.
What an amazing
must be
story.
Pretty intense. The other person I want to also do a plug because he's been very helpful to us since the beginning is Eric Hoffman at The Husband in Tow on Twitter. He's a blogger. He has a podcast as well. They do some videos with his wife. They travel around the world. They were for a long while, I think, based in Bangkok and around. They were moving around. I think they're originally from the US. They are moving back to Southern Europe because, the food, the sun. And they've actually written a book. It's The Food Traveler's Guide to Emilia-Romagna. So that's in Italy. The book is on Amazon. I also recommend it because, I know that you, Alex, of all people, love food.
Yeah.
I am, for all people, I'm a super fan of Italy. I'm actually going to Italy in 4 days. For a quick R&R, also some work, but I'm going to finally have some days off. So, Alex, I will be off your back for a few days. Flying BA. And you know what? Thank God, actually, I have this, my gold status. Because I can actually, choose my seat way before, and I was able to get an emergency exit because, yes, I'm flying coach, guys. You see, I'm not always flying in the front of the cabin. So here are the few plugs. I'll put the link in the show notes. I've asked on Twitter if people were missing the show notes. I've had a few answers that, yes, we are missing the show notes. We want to see them. So, guys, I promise you, I will put them back. Alex and I have had a whirlwind of travels and being busy. See why Alex was busy with the book, but other stuff as well, work-related. And we are recording this while we travel. I've been on 7 weeks of travels, which explains why I didn't have the time to do the show notes, but I will promise I will do them in the summer, and I will take into account that from now on, I will try to put them right when I publish the show. There you go. That was a long introduction to our show for once. Reviews. We love that review, both of us. That airplane dude from the UAE on iTunes, 5 stars. Again, thank you. Amazing podcast. As an AV geek and a cadet pilot from the Middle East, I couldn't be happier to listen to anything else but this during my runs. Keep the great work and hope to bump into you guys in Dubai.
Yeah, absolutely.
And having people that are pilots that are actually doing this. Yes, because we are just in front of a microphone and talking about it. You are the ones that are flying us. So, well, thank you so much. Also, Gleb Martinov on Facebook. Awesome podcast. Keep it up, guys. And Vasilis Kolovos also on Facebook, 5 stars. Fantastic podcast about aviation. I eagerly await each new episode. Great rapport between the two hosts. Keep it up.
That's kind.
And as you see, I've basically monopolized the voice, and Alex is silence for the minutes of this show.
No, this is lovely to hear. It really is. Thank you guys for listening and for taking the time to do this.
So we're in London, both of us. We're melting. The weather. It's crazy. You're hearing some thunderstorms on your side of London. I'm hearing them still very far away, so we might have some cooling finally. But have you seen that Sky Harbor, Phoenix, had to cancel flights? They couldn't take off.
Yeah, they couldn't take off. A bunch of regional flights were canceled. But here in London, they were having to water down the tarmac at Gatwick because they were afraid it was going to melt.
No way, I didn't see that.
Yeah, there was pictures of fire trucks spraying down the tarmac because the surface temperature was getting to the point where a heavy plane might sink into it. So it's been the hottest June in the UK for 40 years.
Wow. So in Phoenix, they had 119 degrees. And just for you guys to understand, Boeing and Airbus, most of these airplanes have a limit at around I think 126. So 120 is around 50 degrees, sorry. So 126. But CRGs, for instance, the Bombardier, are 119. So it's not safe to fly, obviously, when it's too hot. There were even worse temperatures in Dubai, actually. They reached 52 degrees Celsius or something. The luck I think that Dubai has is that Dubai is mostly a nighttime operation airport.
Wow. I can't even comprehend that heat. I've experienced well, I don't know what it would be in Fahrenheit, in centigrade, but 122 degrees in Phoenix, Arizona once. But I have to admit, people always say, "Oh, it's a dry heat," and that actually does take the edge off. And when there's a breeze, yes, it does feel like standing in front of a fan-assisted oven, but that also takes the edge off. But I would imagine that in Dubai, there is an element of humidity there, and I just cannot imagine what that must feel like.
I've been a few times in Dubai in the summer, so when it's really that hot and there's humidity, and having been also in Phoenix in the past when it's really dry, I mean, it's not the same. I'd rather have dry, but I mean, anyway, I'd rather not have 120 plus degrees or 50 plus degrees in Celsius ever. I mean, I like some warmth. I mean, in London, we don't have that much often.
Yeah,
but not that much.
Definitely not complaining about like what it's been like between 29 and 34. My house, certainly, I don't know about yours, isn't equipped for that type of heat.
No.
So it's been pretty unbearable in the evenings. But sitting outside in the evening has been fantastic. So
yeah, delightful. I have also my office is on the last floor, so that's even great. It's even worse. But I mean, I am becoming very brave by talking about the weather all the time. Just a quick shout out to, again, Vasilis, whom I mentioned just before. He sent us a very interesting article on climate change and how it will affect, and it is already affecting air travel. Of course, air travel is one of the culprits of that climate change because, there's a lot of carbon emissions. We had these discussions with Tony Tyler when he was on the show. Just to say that we will at some point do an episode where we'll talk about this topic when we will actually have time to prepare it. I had taken many notes along with Alex for a show that was supposed to be recorded when we had this interruption last year, but we will do one, and we might even try to find someone who knows these type of things better than us.
It would be good to get somebody who understands aviation's effect at a scientific level on climate change, because I think that would be a fascinating discussion. And if there's anything that we can do as travelers to mitigate our impact on an individual level.
I mean, you can always, take the pay something for carbon, but that's not actually really, the flight is still taking off. Yeah, I think it's getting better. We had a bit of discussion with Tony Tyler. Obviously, Tony, part of IATA, was defending the airlines, but we will talk about it more one day. Go on.
I need to go close the windows in my car.
Go.
Sorry. It's pissing it down like fat tropical raindrops.
I think, guys, you know what? I'm going to leave that bit in the show whilst Alex is not there. He will not realize that until the episode is actually out. See, we actually are in live conditions. I might have to do the same, by the way, later. I'm hearing some thunderstorms afar, so I might have to close all the windows at my place too.
That's like being in Singapore, like that article that Mark posted.
Yeah, well,
fat, huge rain. Yeah.
Oh
pissing
my
it down.
God. Wow. So from Dubai to Paris, it was the big trade, Paris Air Show, Le Bourget.
Yeah.
It's still going on today, June 22nd. Of course, too many things to discuss on a single show, and we're just going to glance into it. But the big one, which is not the big one, but the one that everybody talked about, and it's linked with Emirates, is that Airbus presented the A380plus. So it's not a Neo, it's Plus.
Yeah.
Well, basically, there's like these big fat wingtips, the winglets. I've looked into them. They're almost 5 meters tall, so they must be quite impressive to see. But besides that, they're not selling the aircraft. We said actually in the last episode, I think, that Singapore was ditching the 380, but they actually are waiting for new ones that they already had ordered. So they're not ditching the entire program of 380, but they're not buying new ones. But it seems like a half-assed version of a new 380, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not. There was nothing that you're like, oh wow, this is what's going to save the 380 project. It was just incremental increases in efficiency and cabin space and a few other bits and pieces, the sharklets or winglets. But everything else, it just seemed a little bit like grasping at straws.
Absolutely. It looks, so guys, it looks exactly the same. Just go for online to find 380 Plus. I think they also had to rework a little bit the wings, meaning that these won't be able to be retrofitted to early 380s. It has to be the new version. But all the rest that they've announced was pretty much announced already. So basically the cabin improvements, the fact that they have like 11 seats abreast in economy, they are removing, these fantastic storage on the side that we have on the upper deck. They're removing to add some more space there, which would increase, for instance, premium economy, or even probably premium seats like business and first class. So they really are just, finding space here and there to basically increase the number of people who can put in a plane.
Yeah, because that it's not going to be increased space per seat. It's going to be to cram more people into those into economy. But yeah, it was a honing more than anything revolutionary. And exactly. It just seemed a slightly desperate move. If it was like 20% increase in efficiency, or taking some of the construction technology from the A350, then I think perhaps there would have been a little bit more of a hullabaloo, but there wasn't, other than those sharklets, which look kind of cool.
There's a video online, guys. If you look for E380plus online, you'll find it, which shows you all the improvements. But most of the improvements, as I just said earlier, were announced, including the big one, which is the removal of that big staircase, the front of the aircraft. They're doing a staircase that looks like a very narrow staircase. It will go down for the staff, so they have like a rest area, and go up if you want to go to obviously the second floor. And also the staircase at the end, if you've ever had the chance to walk, you could ask a flight crew. Usually they're very happy to do so. You have this circular staircase at the end. They're also removing it to put one that actually, again, everything to increase space. They bailed a bit. I guess they had to do something because Emirates was not happy at all.
Did they remove the front staircase, or are they just making it smaller?
They have one, but it's not this big, fat,
the kind
going
of cruise
down.
liner.
Yeah, it's closer now to the second door, so it's not at the front, and it's really literally a horizontal staircase. It goes in two modules, and you go up a bit like some of the 747s. Like something a bit narrow.
Yeah, that's quite nice.
Then again, most airports do board people in the upper deck with jet bridge at the upper deck, and people on the lower deck with jet bridges in the lower deck. So you rarely actually use the staircase. So I understand why they would do that. It just gives a less feeling of grandeur to that aircraft.
Yeah. I was impressed. That was one of the things about the A380, beyond its size and scale and everything like that I just really got a kick out of. It made me smile the first time I experienced it, was that huge staircase. It seems so benign, but grandeur is exactly the right word. Because there's nothing else like it since the 747 that had anything like that.
Yeah, and talking about a 747, that one is really dying, right?
It is, and I thought that article, was it in the Chicago?
Seattle Times.
Seattle Times, that basically said even Boeing is now saying, it's the end of the 747 as a passenger plane. No one is ordering it, and the line is being kept open for VIP and cargo pretty much exclusively now.
And the Air Force Ones.
And Air Force One, yeah. And, it's probably a healthy thing for them to acknowledge and admit, and for us all to get comfortable with, but it's still sad. I still have not been on a 748.
I'm still waiting for the confirmation, so I'm going to only talk about it on the next episode, which might only be in 2.5-3 weeks because of travels, and it'll be always away. I might fly the 747-8i, so the passenger version, even twice. Fingers crossed, guys. I hope I do. I hope also I'll be on the upper deck because it's somebody actually buying it for me, so I have less room to play. So I really hope I will get into this. But yeah, it's going away. I think UPS, the freighter version, they're getting one of their two. It's almost rolled out. So
it is a very cool looking plane.
Thank God for the freighters, for the cargo guys, because otherwise this plane would actually disappear, and we're not happy about it at all. We're very big fans of that one. Back to the 380 for a second. Had you seen this Porsche Cayenne that was able to pull 380? I think it was an Air France, if I remember correctly.
See that.
Okay, I mean, of course, it was to show that the Porsche Cayenne has super major torque, and exactly. But it's cool.
It was cool.
And, it also means that, well, if 380 is stranded at Frankfurt because Frankfurt has all these fancy cars for VIPs and, first class passengers, they could simply basically bolt the 380 to a Porsche Cayenne.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if push comes to shove, because is it Delta that uses the Porsche Cayenne for their VIP customers? Somebody does.
I know that it's one of
Lufthansa's
the
got the
options at
Mercedes.
Lufthansa. Lufthansa, I think, also has Audis and probably Cayennes. Well, guys, I never flew first on, and I'm not a HON member on Lufthansa, so I don't know. So we should ask Ben Schlappig and ask.
I'd love
if
to.
any one of you guys has ever flown to, especially Frankfurt, with the first terminal that is dedicated for first class passengers with those cars that get you around, please let us know. Would be very jealous, obviously. I had actually seen a Tesla for VIP passengers on the tarmac in Geneva.
That's very nice.
Just also because she's a friend of mine, she was in high school with me, Maud, she's called. I was just browsing YouTube like I do to watch Attache, obviously, and other videos of aircrafts and whatevers. And Emirates just put a video of Sky Cargo, so the cargo division of Emirates, about the first ever supercar designed and built entirely in the UAE. It's called the Generali Design 001. And that friend of mine is actually one of the members of that crew that built that car. So I just want to say hi. And it's so cool to see friends you were in high school with. And then they build supercars, and these supercars end up in an Emirates 777-300ER, I think it was, to be catered all around the world. So yeah, cool. Kudos. Since we're in Paris, 737 MAX 10?
Yes.
Do you like it?
I do. I think it's a very sharp looking airplane, isn't it?
It seems that they're stretching the same version of this plane over and over and over. But, it's a very sturdy airplane.
Yeah,
right?
it's part of this burgeoning market of narrow body, long haul, possibly intercontinental airplanes. People like, JetBlue are looking at it, and obviously Norwegian are using that type of aircraft to do transoceanic flights to the US, as well as the 787. So there's this new market that's kind of emerged when low-cost carriers are looking into transatlantic services and things similar that would require a plane with that level of capacity and efficiency. But yeah, it looks like it's a very cool looking airplane.
Rainer Oller, the head of corporate comms from Airbus, tweeted, latest iteration of 1960s airframe naturally launched at a museum.
Yeah. And you know what? I like. I said this to you on thing. I like that those guys have this bantery relationship. There's competition between them. I think it's a good thing. But, the 737, if you looked in the sky anywhere in the world right now, there's 737s all over it. It is an extraordinarily popular and extremely good airplane. Not that the A3, 19, and 20s and all that stuff aren't, but there's so much, why would you want to improve on something that's almost perfect?
You should work for Boeing. Actually, Boeing, we're not at the end yet, but it seems that Boeing won. They had tons and tons and tons of orders of 737s, mostly the 10 version, of course, because, right now, the biggest competition is the 321 and 321 Neo. And 321 Neo actually outsells Boeing's by 5-1 at least. They have 80% of the market. Boeing had to react and had to come up with something that would compete. Of course, this is why then, I think Leary said, but I'm not sure. So the CEO of Airbus customers said that the biggest competition for the Dash 10 is the Dash 9. So actually they compete with each other,
funny,
saying that, the 321 Neo is in a class of its own. But even in the US, it's actually winning. So they had to do something. They kind of hinted at this 797. They don't call it like what, but there's this slide where they kind of show that by 2025, 2030, they will have a replacement for the 57, basically.
Yeah, they've basically come out and said it. And again, they didn't say 797, but they basically said that this is the next thing, and it's still got a bunch of different code names. But like you said, there was this slide that's like, this is where it's going to slot, and this is what it's going to look like, and it's essentially a 757, 767 replacement.
And again, Airbus had to react. They said that, they were late-ish in releasing the 350 compared to the 787, but they said the fact that we were late, we were able to see what the competition was offering, and then we did a larger plane, a more efficient plane, a silenter plane, etc., etc. So they're going like, we're not worried about this one because we'll be ready.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it was a very good, and it's still going on, as you said, Paris Air Show for Boeing.
I will say something that is a bit sad, and it will come back to you, Alex. Virgin America was and is the launch customer of the A321 Neo.
Yes.
But they didn't talk about it. Nobody talked about it. They didn't publicize it
No.
because Alaska is basically a Boeing customer, and I guess they had to take ownership of the plane. They didn't really want them. Isn't it a bit sad that you get a new aircraft, it's brand new, you're the first ever customer to have it with revenue flights, and you're not even at least even tweeting about it?
They did a few little quick mentions about it, but nothing crazy. And you're right, because you're the launch customer for the whole thing. They did a little bit of PR on the first flights. In fact, there were like 4 trip reports on airliners about this launch flight from San Francisco to DC. And, people were very complimentary, but there was not a lot of shouting at all. It's the perfect airplane for them for these transcons. They've ordered 8 of them, I think. 2 are in service. I saw one on the ground in San Francisco, and I was there over the weekend. It's a very cool looking airplane because it's long for a A320X. And it's got obviously the beautiful big winglets, but it's a very big airplane for that type of airplane, if you will.
And when you compare to what WOW Air, so WOW Air is the European launch customer, if you want. They're the first one, and they blasted all over that. They're very happy to have the 321neo. So I just found it a bit sad. I think Alaska also has Embraers, by the way. They're not only Boeing, but it's just... you have a new aircraft, talk about it. I mean, I know you don't want it, but it's magnificent. I mean, anyway, we have a follower, a listener, Joe, at 907 Joe on Twitter. First of all, he's very happy that we're regularly on live, and not like we used to in the end of last year. And he sent me an article that is pretty interesting. It's on Bloomberg about a lot of qualities to Alaska. I mean, I know you have a heavy heart about that, but saying that although it's not probably, that's me saying that, although it's not probably the same kind of branding, the same kind of, funkiness and the same kind of sexiness and the same kind of attention to customers, it is a very lovable airline because a lot of customers, compared to the experiences they have elsewhere, are happy. There's legroom, there's on-time departures and arrivals are there. The title says it all. Why Little Alaska Airline has the happiest customers in the sky. So it's not Virgin, clearly, but they're still doing something right.
I think, they're the Honda Accord of the airline world. So they're reliable, pretty comfortable, dull as anything. And that appeals to a certain type of person or a certain type of traveler. And those people are incredibly loyal. I think that's fine. If it wasn't for this relationship that they have with Virgin America, I probably would not hate them as much as I do. In fact, I don't think I would hate them at all. But, along with JetBlue and Southwest, they are at least passenger centric compared to the other majority of the airlines in the U.S.
Which reminds me of United Can't Catch a Break. Have you seen the video of that passengers was shoved off?
And then was it the same day where that photo or the video of the fuel hemorrhaging out of the wing right before takeoff, and no one knew, and so the passengers alerted the flight deck crew, and they would have taken off. Apparently, they claim they would have taken off had they not alerted them. But I'm pretty sure that was on the same day. Pretty crazy. Huh?
A little bit more of Paris before we're moving on. The other aircraft, 2 other, because we only talk about Boeing and Airbus. So Embraer was there. The one thing that was really cool is that they had repainted an entire, I think it was an E195 E2 with an eagle livery. It was
cool.
It was super nice. And the other is the MRJ. The Mitsubishi was there, and it really looks really nice. And I'm really hoping they will get somewhere with that one.
I do too. They've been plagued with some problems, that whole program, but hopefully, I really hope that they can get it together because it looks like a neat plane, and they've had a lot of orders.
I will say one thing here, another rant, guys. I'm sorry, I keep ranting on that show sometimes. They have an issue in the US, so they have orders in the US, WestJets, and some, lessers and others, obviously. But they're too heavy, and I was like, what do you mean by being too heavy? Yeah. And I looked into it, and I remember something called the scope clause, which I had to study again. It's basically unions agreements that divide the world between pilots and first officers that work for big airlines and others that work for regional airlines. So it's an artificial division because, of course, they want to protect the jobs, the higher pay of the big airlines compared to the others, that prevents so-called regional airlines to fly big planes. And basically, the MRJ 90, so the 90 version, which is the one that would fit the US market the best, is still too heavy, which will require the entire rewriting of these clauses. But I only really found these clauses super.
I was just going to say that feels like
anti-competition.
protectionism right there.
I mean, come on. So basically, if you are a pilot of an MRJ, you're a lesser pilot than if you're a pilot for one of the big three. And come on. I mean,
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I mean, if it was legitimately overweight, and I know that the 346 had this problem when it was delivered to airlines like Cathay, the operating weight of the airplane was significantly higher than what they were sold on. And and Cathay was pissed about it, and that's why that airplane didn't last very long at Cathay. But this is different. The planes haven't been delivered against the spec that they were sold with, so this just smacks of protectionism.
So United, for instance, limits the regional carriers they work with at 70 seats. So basically MRG 90 is too big, so probably if they were to buy, they would have to go for the MRG 70 version. So again, it's purely protectionism. I don't like it. I'm sure there are also good reasons to do it, and I'm sure some people will rant against me, but come on, guys. I mean, let's have the real competition here, and not these kind of stupid clauses. Anyway, but good luck to Mitsubishi. I really want them to succeed. The other thing, of course, Qatar. Al Baker was in Paris, and Al Baker repeated a line that he has been repeating since we last recorded, calling basically everybody else a bully. So he's at least he's very clear, right?
Yeah, he doesn't mince his words.
I think he even wanted to call the ICAO to intervene or something. And we didn't mention last episode, I think we didn't go into that detail, but the path they are going through to go to Iran actually belongs to the Bahrain airspace.
Who are part of this consortium who have gone against the Qataris. It's getting more and more common. I honestly thought that by this point, 2 weeks since this has happened, this would have been resolved. Somebody would have broken, somebody would have been contrite towards whoever needed contrition, and this would have been done. But no, it's actually getting worse.
I mean, right now we haven't heard a lot of stories about Qatar flights being delayed or price increases.
No, I think they seem to be going more competitive.
Looking at, they're super competitive. Maybe they are. I don't know if it's a promo that was done on purpose because of that. Yeah, but they're really super aggressive. I'm still considering flying them. By the way, guys, on June 24, so in 2 days, they will fly the first 777 retrofitted with the Q suite from Doha to London. Oh. And I've looked at it. I'm pretty sure, because they haven't, Seat Guru and all the others don't have the map yet. But I'm pretty sure it's the 4 p.m. flight that leaves from London Heathrow to Doha Airport that is that 777 with the Q suite at the beginning, and probably June 24th, 25th are the start date. I think every day it's actually priced slightly higher than the others, obviously. The reason is the 777 had the legacy product, so that's probably why they're retrofitting that one. But look, it's super fast. They announced it super recently.
Yeah, they did that really quickly, didn't they? I wonder where they're doing it, if they're doing it in Doha or if they're being done at a maintenance operator somewhere around the world.
But, it looks really nice. They had, of course, again, the seats on display in Paris. I sadly don't think I will take them, also because of the issue we mentioned last episode, the fact that I have status now granted on OneWorld and I'm thinking of going elsewhere.
Yeah, I told you.
Yeah, absolutely. But this still looks appealing, man. I mean,
the product is top drawer. I would love to try it.
Our friend Ed Parsons on Twitter said the same. He was completely in agreement with you, Alex, saying that I will look elsewhere if I have that status extended forever. You will spend these 2 years trying something else.
Yeah, I would too.
And I'm doing that. I'm looking at Emirates because I want to rebuild some stuff there. I mean, I'm still gold, but I need to renew it, and I haven't done a flight in 6 months. I'm looking at Arjana. I'm looking at Singapore. I've actually just booked the Singapore flight. I mean, look, yeah, clearly. And have you seen the video from Qatar?
Yes, it's in a long line of these. I wouldn't call them political, but they're certainly not product or salesy videos. Royal Jordanian did the great one recently, and there have been a few others. I think Emirates have dabbled in this area as well, but it's I'm sure, a direct response to this whole embargo that's happening, but it's a very good video called No Borders, Only Horizons, and it's basically travel that makes us human. There's no borders when we're traveling to connect the world. So it's powerful stuff.
Did EasyJet and BA make you human when we traveled with that recently?
Not really, especially EasyJet.
So, yeah, because we're experiencing something grand here on this show. From last episode where Alex was saying that he loves EasyJet and he's a big fan, we're going to the entire different direction. It's over.
They just let me down on a recent trip to Madrid. Just silly things like they send me like urgent text messages and emails and app notifications saying, your flight has changed. We're very sorry about this. Then they didn't tell you what the change was. I go into the manage my booking thing and I'm looking and I can't see the change. I'm like, what? What is it? Is it a different date? Am I being blind? So I messaged them on Twitter and they're like, oh, let me look at it for you. And then 4 hours later, like, yeah, I can't see it either. I don't see what's happening. There's no change here. And then the flight over there was a little bit delayed. And then the APU crapped out, so we had to be towed in at Madrid, and it was like 34 degrees on the ground and no air conditioning because the APU was off. And then into Madrid airport, which always puts me in a bad mood.
Yeah. Yeah. You were sending messages. I hate Madrid. I hate T1, right?
Yeah, I was at T1, and it's like you come off the plane, and there's this new section that they bolted onto T1, and then you go into where they've bolted it on, and there's signs that basically it's really ambiguous what direction. It's like they're pranking you. It's like one way that you could go one of two ways. The signs say you can go one of two ways to get to immigration and the exit. One will actually get you there, and the other will take you to Mordor. And it's like you get to choose, and that's today's game. And then on the way back, the flight was delayed, as it was on our Berlin flight. Their OTP is just so bad lately, and it was about a 14-year-old plane. It was tatty and falling apart. The seats are really high, so you can't actually look out the window. It's very like you have to scooch down to look out the window.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I've experienced that.
They were some of the worst cabin crew I've ever experienced. They were rude and at worst indifferent at best. And there was a guy, I was in row 2, and the guy in front of me in row 1, he was one of those aggressive typers, typing away on his laptop as the seatbelt sign goes on, through approach, through landing and touchdown.
Oh, wow.
All the way through the taxi ticket, sitting literally across from the flight attendants who said nothing.
We're not paid to do that.
Yeah, and they were just, they when they were going around doing the pre-flight checks, the guy was like strolling up and down the cabin with his hands in his pockets and going, seat back upright, and you, sir, come on now, seat back up, like really patronizing. It was just bad. And then I bitched on Twitter about it just to say, hey, EasyJet, this was really disappointing. Nothing. Not even we're sorry.
Yeah. I've looked, when you told me that, I looked at their Twitter feed. They're replying oddly to some people, not to others. They don't have a consistent way of reacting on Twitter. Maybe because they always bashed on. I don't know.
I mean, you're right, because usually I do defend them and I do like them, but it's been not good lately. The last 2 trips I've had have been really bad.
Did you pay for any speedy boarding seats, or how was it?
I picked a seat close to the front of the cabin because
Is it more expensive?
It's marginally more expensive.
Because I remember that row 1 is an emergency exits are, but I was not sure about row 2.
Row 2 is slightly more expensive, but you get speedy boarding with it as well, which I like. But I don't know. It was just not a great experience. And I'm flying Southwest next month, and I'm interested to compare the experiences.
Yeah. If you ever fly again EasyJet, I'm sure you will, as I will. And if you fly from Luton, which I haven't done in forever. Actually, there was a description about Luton. I don't know who wrote it. Was it you? All the romance and glamour of a refugee internment camp. I had noted that quote in my notes, but I forgot who actually said that. Anyway, if you fly EasyJet, so I don't know how much your flight was, and I'm not going to ask you, but let's say a flight can be sometimes 50 quid, 75 quid, so no expensive. If you're ready to shell out 475 quid, you can have the entire private jet experience at Luton. So you'll have private terminal, you will be escorted to the plane, and then you'll be back at having EasyJet. I don't know who would actually pay 10 times the price for the private jet experience at Luton and then get to EasyJet, but it's an offer that EasyJet does now at Luton Airport.
Hell no.
Is it crazy, no?
It's totally crazy. Luton is a crap hole as it is. If you got to use the, what is it called? The Windsor suite at T5, that would be a very different story, but not friggin' Luton, and then to get on EasyJet.
But Luton is, I think, the Britain's biggest private jet
Yes,
airport,
that doesn't
right?
surprise me at all. I think because the landing fees are much...
Which is why I think they have this private terminal and maybe
But it's the same
EasyJet
thing
did
that
a
LA's
deal.
doing, right? LAX is doing the same, something similar. So this is a trend we're going to see.
Yeah, we mentioned that. But still, it's the disconnect between a flight that could be 50 quid and paying almost 500 to have that experience. If you were flying long haul in LA, yeah, well, I'd see that maybe. I mean, I wouldn't pay for it, but I'd see why you would do that, but not for EasyJet. No. I mean, that doesn't seem to make any sense
really
to me whatsoever. As for me, as you know, guys, I was going to Sofia. I was not able to change that ticket that I was mentioning at the end of the show. No matter the status, that was a saver fare, and well, it's fine. I mean, I was very pleased with it. So on the way there, I used Frankfurt, and the way back, I used Munich. I know, guys, I'm tiring you by always talking about Frankfurt versus Munich, but once more, I have a proof of this big disconnect between these two airports. So Munich on the way back was efficient, super fast. It's probably my second favorite airport to do quick connections in Europe after Zurich. Frankfurt, which I remind you for the umpteenth time, like to call themselves the hub experts. So I was flying from London, outside of Schengen, to Sofia, outside of Schengen. So my thinking is, wow, for once, being in Frankfurt, I will not have to go through passport control, security, this long, big-ass tunnel that goes from A to Z, etc. I'm like, and I have like an hour. And I'm like, well, I should be fine, right? And my plane is pretty much on time. I land. And you know, on TripIt, it says the gate you're landing to. So I see the gate I'm landing at, deplaning from is B something. And my next gate is also B something. I'm like, hallelujah.
Fine, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought. I go out of the jet bridge, and something I don't do usually, there's this guide, that helps customers finding their way. The flight to Sofia, it says B something, 2 floors up. I'm like, okay, 2 floors up. I go 2 floors up, and then I see a sign, B1 to 12, I can remember, on the right, and the rest of the B's on the left. I was on the rest of the B's. Man, it took me 50 minutes to go to this. I'm not kidding. And, I'm tall. I am a fast walker. I had to go through bizarre layouts of the airports and other and left and right and left and right. And I was like, where am I going? Then there's a train. I don't understand. I'm still at B, but there's a train connecting for 10 minutes between 2 parts of B. And I'm going to this other B. And I'm again, like, in very strange, it looks like the airport was retrofitted to adapt for Schengen, but that was a long time ago. And you're still going, there are cords and you seamling past next to emergency exits. It doesn't make any sense. And you walk and you walk and you walk and you walk. And then security. I'm like, no, come on. So, of course, I have status. I'm lucky. I'm going through that fast track line. And the fast track line leads you directly to, these machines when you have to put your hands up. And I see that there's like at least 5 strollers waiting. I'm like, no way. I'm not going to be a bully and pass in front of everybody. So I cut through the normal line. I go through a normal X-ray machine. My flight was actually boarding at the time of the security.
That's stressful.
So I was, the app was telling me it's ready for boarding. I'm like, my God. It was just one guy in front of me. The guy had already put all these trays. Of course, I will admit it, I was a bit, of course, stressed out. Yeah. And I immediately take the next tray and I simply put it next to it. And the security tells me, no, you have to wait for your turn. First says that in German, that says that again in English. And I snapped. I shouldn't have. Of course, arguing with security is never a good idea. So that delayed me for 5 minutes before I decided that I was smarter than this and basically, tone everything down and, made him smile and left. But still, I had to go through a very slow security process. And then I'm working again for 15 other minutes. I was the last person to board a bus. So it's insane. I don't understand the layout of that airport. I will try to avoid it from now on, at least for connecting. It doesn't make sense.
Especially since they talk so much, like you said, about it being the place to connect through. And it's just, it's not. You have to... it's not like Helsinki where, 35, 40 minutes is doable. You need, if it was less than 2 hours, I would feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Anyway, better experience at Sofia that I had last year. I think I had mentioned that in the show last year. This time, super fast, efficient. The lounge is crap. Our friend Max Gervitz told me that the better lounge is the one accessible by a priority pass. And I just got my priority pass today.
I've been using mine a lot more recently. It's useful to have in your back pocket.
Before we go to your flight, you had mentioned you did the 350 with Finnair.
Yes.
Did you learn that because of the bad finish of the seats, they will have to remove and rebuild all the seats?
I guess that's been a problem with a lot of people that have the Zodiac seat. I know Cathay have had the same problem as well. So
crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Those guys are not making any friends.
No, they're not. So, BA, your other flight experience, you had to go quickly to the US. So that was a very quick back and forth, but very long.
Yeah.
So how was that?
I was just there for the weekend for some family reasons. But I was in premium economy and I was flying to San Jose. And I got to the check-in because I wanted to see if there were any upgrades available. So I went to the first wing, which we've talked about in the past is really great. And I said to the person, I'm checked in, but I was just wondering if there are any upgrades available from World Traveler Plus to business class. And she looked and there were, and they were crazy expensive, totally not worth it. So I said, oh, okay. Then she said, but there's a seat in World Traveler Plus with a free seat next to it. Would you, and it's a window seat, would you like me to move there? And I said, yeah. Can I have a look at the seat, ma'am? She showed me the screen. I said, that would be great. But can you confirm to me that there's nothing wrong with the seat? Like, it doesn't recline because there's a wall behind it or it's missing a window or anything like that. And she says, oh, no, of course. It's a normal seat. So she changes my seat. Then they spent like 15 minutes trying to figure out how to print my boarding pass, which was bizarre. You'd think you'd have the most experienced people on first class check-in.
Correct.
Perhaps it's due to a new system or teething issues with that or whatever. It happens. It wasn't the end of the world. But I just had this weird feeling. As I finished through security and I was walking into the lounge, I pulled up Seat Guru on my phone. And of course, it's missing a window and doesn't recline. And I was so pissed. I thought, A, you should know that your product. B, what if someone takes the seat that I did have, which was great? I immediately go to the customer service desk within the lounge there. The guy there was really, he rolled his eyes to the back of his head and was like, I'm really sorry. That's embarrassing for us. Look, there's a seat here. There's a window seat, and I'll block the seat next to it because we've really messed you around. Is there anything else I can do? Really nice resolution to that problem. But I was like, ugh, that's you guys. And it was like there were three people trying to check me in. It was like watching the Three Stooges try and check me in. But I have to say, the Dreamliner, I've been on it a handful of times now. That plane is just amazing.
I love it. It's like I said earlier, it's rock and roll. I might have, when I was saying earlier that Airbus was saying that the 350 is better, the 350 is like, again, and I repeat what I said, I think last year, it's like a big Mercedes. Yeah. It's super comfy. But the 787 is a Camaro. It's a Mustang. I love it.
Quiet. And we were lucky because it was a daytime flight, which, it's a long 10-hour daytime flight, but it was quiet and smooth and comfortable and you feel good on the plane. And they've got obviously those amazing windows that you can just see forever. I love that airplane. I love flying into San Jose. I was again off the plane and on the tarmac within about 3.5 minutes.
That's awesome.
It's so good. We're flying there. The whole family's flying there 2 weeks today as well. So that's
BA as well?
BA as well on the Dreamliner on a 7879. So it's just I love that airplane. Love it.
How was your security situation on the way back when TSA was good?
Oh, dude. I forgot to tell you about this. So I flew out of San Francisco. It just worked out better that way for a lot of logistical reasons. So I flew into San Jose, flew out of San Francisco on BA. They had shut down something at security, which actually at San Francisco in the international terminal for an American airport usually is pretty good. But the queue was unusually long. For those of you that know San Francisco International Airport well, it was past the Alaska Airlines check-in desks. For those of you that know, your jaw will have just hit the floor. It was like way past that. And I had a priority thing. So I'm looking around and they're like, it was closed because they were using the canine dogs to go up and down the security line and smell everybody's bag for like an hour. And so I went up to the lady that was checking everybody's passports and I said, is there a priority line? Without even looking at me, without even acknowledging me, she just barked and said, no, get to the back of the line. And I was like,
my God.
Wow. And to San Francisco Airport's credit, because they're not TSA, or they're sort of this hybrid company, they got through it really quickly. But here's a weird thing. When I got to the belt, I did not have to take my liquids out of my bag. I did not have to take my laptop out of my bag. I did not have to take my belt off.
This is what Glucose was telling us, that there was only sniffing dogs and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, there was nothing. And the poor TSA woman who was on the belt, people were like, well, I need to take my laptop out. No, you don't. Okay, I need to take my liquids out. You don't need to take anything out. Just go into that machine. That was the first time I've ever experienced that. It wasn't entirely reassuring, I must admit.
Is it security theater and we're reassured because we've been used to it, or is it actually maybe as good with that machines?
I would
and
love
these kind of
to know.
I don't know.
I would love to know the difference. Is there a new X-ray machine? Why don't I have to take out my liquids? Why don't I have to take my laptop out? So that was an interesting experience. I did get to go into the Cathay Lounge at San Francisco, which is great because it was right after a Cathay flight, so the whole thing was open. Usually when it's the later BA flight, only half of it's open because all of the Cathay flights have gone and they're cleaning it. But the BA lounge at San Francisco is always, because everybody and their grandmother has status on BA, is rammed. And it was 40 degrees in California that day, so it was hot. Straight to the beautiful, airy Cathay Lounge and then on to a 747 for the ride home.
Was it not Mark? You didn't ask.
No, it wasn't Mark. I always listen very carefully when I'm on a 747 on BA, just to see if our good friend Mark is on the flight deck. But no, it must be psychological. But I'm always so relaxed and so comfortable. I sleep better on that airplane than I do on any other airplane. It's loud. It was old. It was tatty. Tired, but
as
it
I
was
told
beautiful.
you, as I told you the other day, I think we share something. We were in those planes as babies in cots, because I know my parents told me, and we're just used to the noise and used to that kind of shaking things, and we like that. It reminds us when we're babies and we're sleeping like babies, right?
Yeah, there was something so wonderful about it. I slept so well. Premium economy again on BA, and it was fine. It was not curt. That's not fair. It was systematic, slightly robotic, but fine.
Okay, well, good. As long as it's fine, I've seen the Premium Economy when I was doing Arc Horizon, and it looks good. Honestly,
the new one on the 787 is very good. This one was just the recovered seats from about 17 years ago on the 747. So, but it was fine. It was fine. I was in a bulkhead. I had lots of room, so no, that's fine.
Mark, the gods will make it that one day we
will be
it'll
in
the
happen.
Same flights. One day it will actually happen.
Because they still have a crazy amount of 747s left.
Thank God they are keeping them around for a little while on BA because they're retrofitting them, new screens and whatever's, and probably there are rumors about a new business class seats coming in 2-3 years.
So maybe they will be
still
retrofitted.
Have
40 of them, and they've got no plans to retire them.
Good. That's good. That's a reason to love BA. Thank you, BA. Thank God you guys exist. I'm going to go back to your experience at San Francisco in a minute, but since you were talking about the TSA security, I just want to mention that I've seen something news pretty interesting that the TSA is trialing and will trial a full boarding from the beginning of the airport to the end with fingerprints. So you'll have your fingerprints and everything will be set. Another way of doing biometrics. So to avoid too many displays of, can I see your boarding pass? Can I see your passport? That's a good idea.
I would love to know what Kendall from Flyer Rights thinks about this, because she did, again, bring up a really interesting point about privacy and data with regard to beacons. But, as you said, this is, San Francisco the security is done by this company called Covenant. So essentially, that company could have your fingerprint data, and they're a private company. So there's some interesting things to consider there.
Since you just mentioned beacons, a quick shout out to Steve Glenfield at Heathrow. They are launching these beacons we've been talking about in 1 week with Locus Labs. So you guys will be able to trial these beacons if you download the Heathrow app. Well, you had this seat issue, and I spent yesterday, and you know that, whilst you were sending updates for your book, I spent the day trying to book 2 flights that will happen in July. One is to go to Bangkok, and I wanted to have a long layover in Singapore, and the other one is to Manila. You know what? If I were to do it all over again, I would just build a GDS. I mean, as soon as you try what we do, these complex routings, when you want long stopovers, when you want like multiple airlines sometimes, everything fails. I must have tried OTAs, so online travel agents, so many yesterday. Cheap or Air, Momondo, of course Skyscanner, the big ones, but names I'd never have heard about. Email flights and DUI flights or something. And I've tried so many, and each and every one of them was surfacing different options that didn't even exist.
And
for
that's
instance,
what I don't understand. Where are they getting the inventory where they can all be so different?
Yeah, so maybe it's different providers of GDS, as you say, Amadeus, etc. But I think is that some of these guys, they botch together routes. So for instance, if you go into, let's take the example of Singapore. So I'm going from London to Singapore, staying in Singapore for one night. Then I'm going to Singapore to Bangkok. And then the return is Bangkok, Singapore, London in a row, actually. That is impossible to make it happen on Singapore's website, which, by the way, in terms of UI is... And then I go look for it on Google Flights, on Matrix, and all that stuff. Even on Matrix, that one requires me to do a multi-city when I specifically say I'm flying on that date to Singapore and the next date from Singapore to Bangkok.
Right.
Whereas some of these OTAs, simply by choosing Singapore Airlines, because by definition you have a stopover, will surface some of those flights, telling you, oh, you have a 22 hours layover. I like that. But again, every time I was redoing the search, because I was trying to find good prices and good timings that I needed, every time the results were different. It was insane.
That is infuriating. And there isn't anybody... Even ITA Matrix, as you said, that gives you the power tools to be able to piece together an itinerary on a single itinerary, even with those big stopovers.
Yeah. And I've done some pretty crazy things on Matrix. And Matrix, for example, displaying me a price of 1,000, let's say, and then you try to replicate the route elsewhere, and it's 5,000. And you're like, my God, how? Yeah. And it's impossible to do that.
Yeah, it is infuriating.
Even Skyscanner sometimes. This is not Skyscanner's fault, because Skyscanner crawls the results from other websites. Because Skyscanner is really, and I want to give a shout out to them, is really well done in terms of the amenities you get into flight. They tell you the seating, it's a 333, 232, etc. They give you Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi, USB, no USB. They give you a lot of information about your plane. So it's really well done. And it's a good meta search tool. But then you find again 1,000, you press on the button, to be linked to the website that actually, where you can buy the flight, and the price is double in the seconds you've actually pressed the button. And you know what? For the first time, so I will give a big shout out to Sam at TravelUp. TravelUp is one of these OTAs that I had never heard about before yesterday, basically. And I tried booking a flight. I found the perfect flight I wanted, and I booked. And as my credit card was processing, it stops and says, the GS was not up to date. We cannot offer you that price. I'm like, crying out loud. But he calls me. He leaves me a voicemail, because obviously he already had my details since I was paying. And he says, I'm going to try to find you that ticket. And at first I was like, yeah, right. He's going to find me a ticket 5 times the price, and he's not going to do it. He called Singapore Airlines. We did everything by email between him and me, and he actually sold me, for once, a travel agent, because we are always to be wary of using travel agents. Yeah. Found me the perfect flight with the perfect price.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. I was so happy.
So it was
TravelUp.co.uk. That's a British-based company. Yeah, and I told him, I said, you know what? Next time I have complicated flights like this, and that might happen for my Manila flight, which I will do today after we're recording this show, I will simply give you the route and try to bolt it for me and quote me. He fought for me. He even got me the bulkhead seats I wanted on Singapore, right? So, really happy for once to use a travel agent. And I have the hand of the flight on Manage My Booking on Singapore Airlines. So shout out.
That's really cool.
Emirates now offers flights from Cathay, for instance. It's crazy.
I didn't know that.
You can, if you do if you want to go for, let's say the route I was looking for is to do London, Hong Kong, obviously via Dubai, obviously because it's Emirates, and then Manila. Well, the last leg is offered on Cathay or Cathay Dragon. That's cool, huh?
That is cool.
So that's actually what I'm looking to do. I'll tell you more about that in the next episode, because we already talked a lot, but there's still some more news to come. Especially, you sent me this wonderful picture of you with a burger in hand when you were in the US at the airport.
It was my favorite, my happy place, I think I referred to it as, with one of my favorite things in the world. So I make a point of getting to San Francisco airport a little earlier, especially on a nice day. Like it was absolutely stunning on Sunday when I flew home. And I went to In-N-Out Burger. There's an In-N-Out Burger like 5 minutes drive, if that, 3 minutes drive from the airport. Grabbed my my double animal style, and I went to the Bayshore Park. If you know San Francisco airport or San Francisco in general, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's this wonderful public pathway and park area that runs along the bay, at the edge of the bay, right up to the edge of the Thames, the runways right and left. And so you can sit there in the shade or in the sun and just watch the planes take off and land all day. And I had my burger, I had the planes. It was a beautiful day. So I was having my
Tell us about the family, because I love that story.
So there was this family that arrived about 10 minutes after I did, teenager, the parents, and then this maybe 3 or 4 year old. And they were just all of them were so excited just to be there. And every takeoff, it was like, wow, look at that one. That's so cool. I
love that.
And it was genuine joy, which is so rare these days. Yeah. And they were about to leave. And I said, do you guys have 5 more minutes? And they're like, yeah, why? I'm like, and I was looking at Plane Finder just to see if anything interesting was coming in. And the Air France A380 was on final. I said, just stick around for like 5 minutes tops. I promise you that it will be worth it. And this thing comes barely, beautiful, bright white airplane. Their jaws just hit the floor. I don't think they'd ever seen a 380 before. And they were just like, look at that. I'm like, that's the biggest passenger airplane in the world. I'm like, oh my God. And then it was perfect because then the Emirates one pulled out from was it Emirates or Asiana or somebody that runs a 380 to San Francisco pulled out from the gate and taxied right past them as well. So they were just blown away. It's lovely. It was lovely to see. It made my day.
Oh, that's amazing. I love this kind of story. So to your burger, remember guys, we talked about the burger last week. 2 things into that story. First, when we talked about level, it is something that we have to be better at. We sometimes, often, because especially these days where we create the shows between 2 flights, basically, we run a lot from memory. And then we don't always acknowledge the publications and the authors of the articles. So LoyaltyLobby, at LoyaltyLobby on Twitter, are behind the review of Level.
It's a great
They've actually
site.
come up with a review of the premium economy. They basically say, how sad is it that we have to pay premium economy for what we used to have as economy 10 years ago? Well, that's the truth. It doesn't look like an amazing product. Honestly, the premium economy on Norwegian looks much, much better. In my opinion, I've only flown one and not the other. So big kudos to LoyaltyLobby. The thing though, related to burgers, he sends me on Twitter the picture like of a lot of buns on the seat, like at least I think 12. And I'm like, what's the context? And he tells me, stranded at Pyongyang Airport. Pyongyang Airport, the Air Koryo staff left these 12 burgers on the seats.
What?
I mean, stranded for 12 hours, and Air Koryo staff left bags of burgers before leaving. Excellent pairing with cheap sparkling wine. We need to invite you because I want to know about being stranded at Pyongyang Airport and getting burgers, these very famous stale burgers that everybody talks about, at Pyongyang left by the staff, and having sparkling wine at F&J, which is the name of the airport. I mean, what?
That's
crazy story. And I think Eric, as Benito told us, guys, have you never done burgers at Cathay?
You know what? When I fly in Cathay, I almost always have the Asian option because it's so good. Don't recall seeing it on the menu, but my eyes immediately gravitate towards whatever Asian deliciousness they have. So I don't know. No, I haven't had it on Cathay, no.
So now to finish the show, before we go to the airport, never mind if it's a bit long, a little bit of fun, because at Paris Air Show, Skytrax announced the Airline Award. So basically, who are the best airlines in the world? A bit of, nice news for Qatar, right?
Yeah, it was sort of the bittersweet end to what must have been a difficult month for them. They were the Skytrax best airline in the world for 2017.
Yeah,
I still haven't flown on them.
I don't understand that. I mean, and now, of course, you're hesitating because were you not trying? You were going to a trip, I think, in the fall, and you might have taken them. Is that still on the cards?
Probably.
Probably. You don't know yet.
I don't know. I've got so many pending trips at the moment, but it was an interesting. The Skytrax are quite a controversial organization within our industry, but I actually, of all of the awards that seem to have come out in the last 6 weeks, this is the one I put the most weight into or on.
So number 2, Singapore Airlines. Haha, I'm flying them soon. Number 3, ANA. thank God, this is really a good airline and it needs to be recognized more and more. Number 4, Emirates. It went down from last year.
Yeah, they were number 1 last year.
And number 5, Cathay. Yep. Haha, here you go. I can finally say that I've flown it and not like you fly it every 3 weeks. Number 6, Eva Air. It was one of my options to go to Bangkok. They have actually a direct from London to Bangkok, strangely, because they're not Bangkok based. I really want to try it. They have very good reviews in number 6 here. Number 7, Lufthansa. I will say I agree about the short haul. I'm not sure about the long haul yet. Number 8, Etihad.
Don't you think it's interesting that Lufthansa is higher than Etihad?
Yeah, well, now they're one company. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But but yeah. I you know what? I think that probably what happens with Etihad, and I'm not absolutely certain, is that the premium product is completely mind-blowing, but I'm not sure about the experience in economy. Maybe that actually draws them down. Maybe that's it. I don't have the insight into how they make the rankings, but a lot of people who've flown with them in economy say it's lesser than Qatar and Emirates. So maybe that's it. I'm not sure, to be honest. Hainan, I want to try that.
Yeah, I do too. A lot of people have been talking about them and the number 10 airline, Garuda.
Garuda. But you were telling me that, you remember, we had this discussion, I think it was for a flight a month ago, and I was telling you, Alex, what do you think about Garuda? I want to try them. You're like, I
think, generally with Indonesian aviation, there's safety concerns here, but a lot of people that I've spoken to have been raving about Garuda, especially their premium products. I think they must be trying really, really hard to shake off that reputation, because you're right. I don't, up until very recently, I wouldn't have even given them a second look.
For the second year in a row, I think they have the world best cabin staff, Garuda.
Wow.
So
it makes such a difference. Something. It really does.
Yeah. Eva Air has the world's cleanest airplanes cabins.
That's a big thing too.
Yep. Thai Airways have the world's best airline economy class, so that's good to know, actually, because of a long haul especially. Bangkok Airways, the best regional airline. Oh. Lufthansa, best airline in Europe. Yeah.
Yeah, who else is it going to be?
I can see it, honestly. I can see it. They have a very consistent and solid product, to be honest.
Who else is it going to be?
And the Singapore Airline business class seat was voted the world's best by customers. I'm going to have the new one, I think, on the way back from...
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how you find it.
I'm still hesitating because there's room on the left side and the right side. There's no more bulkhead on the way back. And it's this awkward seat when you have to be angled when you want to sleep.
Yes.
And I'm wondering which angle do I sleep the best? The world's best low-cost airline, AirAsia, and number 2, Norwegian.
Well, I can believe both of those.
JetBlue, then EasyJet. Virgin America is number 5, Alex.
Yeah, fair enough. That's some healthy competition right there.
Best long-haul low-cost airline, Norwegian 1, Jetstar 2, AirAsia X3, Scoot 4. There's not a lot, actually.
No, there aren't that many yet.
The best low-cost airline premium cabins, as we just mentioned, that AirAsia X is 1 and Norwegian is 2nd. So see, we should try AirAsia X. I think I'm meeting Tony Fernandez from AirAsia in Seoul in 2 weeks. So who has for you the world's best first-class product?
Well, I've only tried, in recent memory, I've only tried Cathay and BA, and Cathay was very, very good. But it was interesting seeing our friend Kobus post the pictures, and obviously you've experienced this as well, of the Emirates first class. It just looks amazing.
What do you think won?
Based on what I know, I would say Emirates.
Well, close. Etihad is first.
It was interesting that they slipped so far down and that they have the best first class.
Lufthansa is actually, a lot of people rave about Lufthansa. Air France is number 4, Singapore is number 5, ANA number 6, and Cathay is number 7. So you see, you've flown in the 7th best. And I don't think British Airways is number 19th.
Yeah, BA would not have been pleased with these.
The best first-class airline lounge, I'm not surprised, though I would argue that now that I've seen the PR, I would have put Cathay really high, but Cathay is only number 6. What do you think is number 1?
That's bizarre. Qatar with the new lounge in Doha, it's got to be, hasn't
it? Clearly. Lufthansa is number 2. I'm sure that's because of their first-class terminal in Frankfurt, actually. Yeah. So who won the best... business class seat? We've done more than just 2 or 3 like on first though. What was your best business class experience? I mean, Cathay must be the best I had.
Cathay is definitely up. I like the way that the Emirates seat is laid out. It's good, and I think where Cathay
on the 380,
where Cathay will beat them every time is on service, and probably most of the time beat them on food as well.
Well, Qatar Airways is number 1, which I understand if you're talking about Q Suite and the Dreamliner, but some of the older products for me are not there.
Yeah.
ANA is number 2, which I've done once, and it's solid. I don't know if I would have put it number 2. Singapore number 3, where there's these massive seats they have. Etihad 4, Lufthansa 5, Turkish 6. I don't agree because there's no privacy really. 7 Garuda, and 8th Cathay Pacific. Emirates is 9. So you see, Cathay Pacific is better than Emirates. Wow. But you know what? Being slightly taller than you, I like Emirates. I like the layout. I'm not entirely sure about the length. I'm 6'4", and when I am fully lie flat on the 380, I didn't have that feeling on Cathay at all, which is probably why I loved it so much.
Right.
Yeah, so since people tell us we never talk about economy, we just said that the world's best economy class was Thai Airways, followed by Qatar 3 Asiana. In terms of seats, though, interestingly, and I think you've done it, Japan Airlines.
Yes, very good. Really comfortable seat. I just loved my experience with them. I love JAL. I love ANA. I think Japan is just spoiled when it comes to airlines. They've got 2 really amazing kind of tier 1 carriers and then loads of great little carriers as well.
Yeah, I think ANA was also world's best airport service, number 6, and 4th best airline staff in Asia. But yeah, best economy class, Japan Airlines, 2nd, Asiana, and 3rd, Thai. So I've only flown ANA in coach, and I've flown, of course, JAL in coach, but that was domestic and a long time ago, so I wouldn't be able to judge that either. Anyway, there's 25 billion awards there.
Yeah, they do like to have a category for everything.
The world's best alliance, I will finish with that one. 1st, Star, 2nd, World, and 3, SkyTeam. This is the order I would have done.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they're always in every single year.
I know we're running late on this show, but since we probably won't record for 2.5 weeks, maybe even 3, as Alex is going for the summer in California, and I have a lot of travel, let's do a little bit longer. Peter Johnson mentioned an article on the Layovers Facebook page of facebook.com/layovers.2 about the rankings that are done by AirHelp. You know, AirHelp is this compensation. It's interesting because what they do, they gather customer, reviews, but they also take into account delays, the on-time arrival, etc., and the easiness, I guess, of being compensated in case you have an issue.
All valuable data.
In terms of airports, Singapore Changi is by far number 1. Number 2 is Munich. Number 3 is Hong Kong. So nothing really surprising there, right? For the airlines, Singapore Airlines number 1, Etihad number 2, Qatar number 3, Austrian number 4, Air Transat.
Oh yeah, the Canadian outfit.
Yeah. And then the number 6, Air Dolomiti, which is kind of a subsidiary of Lufthansa. I was surprised by that one. Not that I didn't like them, but it's interesting to see how different the scores could be. The funny bit though is that if you look at the worst airports, you'll have LA. Our friend at LA Flyer would not like that, I guess, for delays.
I don't know about delays. Yeah, quite possibly. I just think I'm going there in about 3 weeks, so I will. I'll let you know how I get on. More time for
a burger, right?
Yeah.
And the 3 airports for London is also there. Heathrow are considered also amongst the worst, I think. That's, I mean, we know that, but still, of course, the ones in New York as well, etc., etc. Yeah, we know that. And EasyJet and Ryanair are getting a bad rep if you look at the rankings.
Yeah, especially in terms of on time. Yeah, the frustrating airline.
Nah. Okay, let's finish with one bit of fun news before moving to the airport. That big, fat, crazy aircraft.
Oh, the scaled composite Stratolaunch.
What is
Paul
this?
Allen, who is, among many other things, co-founder of Microsoft with Bill Gates, is a partner in the Scaled Composites product. And Scaled Composites, Burt Rutan's company that has given us so many incredible airplanes, not to mention Spaceship One. They've built this gigantic airplane that is a air launch platform, so that you can put rockets into space. It's an airplane essentially, and it is absolutely huge. 200,000 pounds and it's composite, so it's like like the 787 and the A350. And if you put it on an American football field, the wingtips would extend beyond the goalpost by 15 feet on each side. Long ways on an American football field. This is a monstrous airplane. They bought 2 old United Airlines 747s basically to just cannibalize them. And they took the engine. So it's got 6 747-400 engines. It has the cockpit of a 747 split across these 2 pylons. Just, you have to go and look at the pictures of this. It hasn't flown yet. They pulled it out of the hangar on the 31st of May. And I don't think it's supposed to fly for at least another year and a half. But monstrous airplane. It's just extraordinary.
You know that thing that Virgin Galactic has done? It looks like they've split in half the thing.
Yeah.
Put another layer of a wing part in the middle and bolted like major, like, of course, 747 engines. It looks like a monster. I mean, it's like a drag, what you see on TV in the US is drag thing, whatever, for cars.
Yeah, it looks
crazy.
like something that Hayao Miyazaki would come up with. It's just
very good one.
It's just the most extraordinary looking thing. And in the space between the 2 fuselages will be whatever they're launching into space, I presume.
It's not a commercial aircraft per definition, though. Guys, Paul Allen, you shared a very good first name with me. If you want to invite us to just a test flight without having anything there, we would be very happy.
We'll find time in our schedule.
Actually, both Alex and me would probably fall asleep because since it's the same engine instead of 747, as we said earlier.
It's the equivalent of a lullaby.
This is perfect. So, Kansai Airport, you said you've never been, but you will be going
in October,
soon.
yeah.
It's a strange airport for many reasons. It's located next to Osaka, very close as well to Kobe, which is there's this bay, and one city is opposite the other. So I say strange because they wanted to have another big airport in the region. At first, they proposed it to Kobe, and Kobe said no. They refused the plan. If you remember what I said about Narita when we talked about that in episode 50, because of all the issues that Narita had, they didn't want to go into any other problem with lands and owners, so they built the airport on the sea.
Yeah.
So it's a full island that was built on the sea. It's south of Osaka, on the other side of the Bay of Kobe. So they're starting, I think, end of the 80s. They built, of course, a seawall, etc. It was one of the biggest project that it was ever undertaken because it's really a massive amount of gravel, etc. they had to build. In the 90s, they actually commenced the building of the airport itself for their first runway. Very quickly, they realized that the island was sinking.
Yeah, they'd allowed for a little bit of sinking, hadn't they? But then over the life of it.
Yeah, they thought it would sink overall by almost 6 meters, so that's almost 20 feet. But in 99, at the end of the 90s, he already had sunk by more than 8 meters, so almost 27 feet. So it's not good news.
That's
it keeps sinking.
Bad.
Of course, since then, they've built a second runway, and they've augmented. They have a Terminal 2, which Terminal 2 is for low cost. The main terminal we'll talk about is Terminal 1. The other reason I see it strange is that Kobe said, so we don't want the airport. But then they built their own.
Of course.
So you have one island on one side of the bay, which is this big fat Kansai KIX. And on the other side, you have another island, which was built by Kobe, which mostly caters to domestic flights, which has a few international charters, I think, or could accommodate them. So it doesn't make any economic sense whatsoever to have both on each other. And third thing, you still have Itami. So the Osaka International Airport, because again, I'm talking about Kansai International Airport, which is the airport of the region. You have a Osaka International Airport, which is the airport of the city. So you have 3 airports that are 3 international, and basically they're between 40 and 50 kilometers to each other. It doesn't make sense whatsoever.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
The Kansai one is, of course, the most expensive because of what I said. Also, it has, I think, along with Narita, the world's most expensive landing fees, because I guess they have to make sure that it doesn't sink. Yeah. So they have to keep putting gravel or something. As an airport, as a Terminal 1, I've never been to Terminal 2. Terminal 1 is actually pretty beautiful. It was built by Renzo Piano, the famous architect. It's, like Japanese airports can be. I know it's a cliche, but they can be very functional, a bit dry sometimes, as in, the colors that are chosen. They're not like either in your face, like some airports in the Middle East, or airy with a lot of lights, some airports in Scandinavia, for instance. It's very functional, but it's really nice. It's pretty easy to navigate. It's very big. It feels that because it hasn't reached capacity, it feels it's too big for what it is. So, which
Cavernous.
is nice, actually. The dream of this airport, Kansai, was to say, look, Narita being so far out of Tokyo, if we build this airport there and then we build a bullet train to Tokyo, it'd be actually faster to land in Osaka, take the bullet train and arrive in Tokyo, especially Yokohama or the western part of Tokyo. It hasn't really been there yet, actually, but Emirates at some point was offering flights from wherever to KIX, and then they would partner with either I think once it was Starflyer, I love that airline, and probably the other was ANA or JAL, I don't remember. The advantage was, for me back then, there was almost guaranteed to be upgraded, because it was just these flights had started when I started taking them, when I was going to Japan for work, and then I was almost guaranteed to be upgraded every single time. That's not the case anymore. But the other time I flew it from there was with ANA, and I was in business class, and this is one of these airports, of course it's ANA, so it's the local airline, but you go from specific dedicated desk to the lounge to the gate in one straight line, and everything is perfect.
That's the way it should be.
It was perfect. The sets of escalators that go to the lounge, and then sets of escalators down, and you are
How
at
is it? There's such a rare thing that we're celebrating. It should be so obvious. It should be so, standard.
And just for that, I adored, obviously, that airport. This is also the airport where I was flying with Emirates, and I think I told the story last year, or maybe even 2 years ago. Our podcast is getting old.
It really is.
Where there was massive thunderstorms, massive rain in Tokyo, Haneda. And my flight was Haneda, Osaka to grab Emirates. My flight in Tokyo was 2 hours late. But it was on an EK ticket. It was, since it was the trick I was doing. The guys in Osaka, the flight waited for me.
Wow.
45 minutes. I mean, of course the flight was full. Of course they might have thought we'll make up the time in flight. But still, you know what? That day, this is what, guys, sometimes I talk a lot of Emirates. That day, they got me loyal.
Yeah.
Because I was
things like that, though,
holy
isn't it?
cow. I even met the pilot and the first officer on that flight. They were super, super nice. So yeah, you should consider it if you're going to Japan, because sometimes flights can be less expensive than going to Tokyo. Actually, Kyoto is closer. So you could do, most people do, they go to Narita, sometimes now Haneda, which is open to international flights. They do a bit of Tokyo, they take the Shinkansen, they go to Kyoto, and then they come back. You could actually do the reverse. Start in Osaka is a very nice city.
Very sensible.
Do Kyoto, go to Tokyo, and go back. You might actually save money from your flights by flying to KIX, and it's actually a very decent airport to travel into. I just mentioned, and I'll finish with that, the bullet train. Why? Because the bullet train that is supposedly being built will be that maglev train.
Yeah.
So it has a operating speed of more than 500 kilometers per hour. That's almost 320 miles per hour. It will be first built between Tokyo and Nagoya, and then extended to Osaka, the airport, but that won't happen before 2045.
Wow.
At least, because that's one of the most expensive trains ever. But then it would mean that you'd land at KIX, and in 40 minutes, imagine the distance it has to run.
Yeah.
In 40 minutes, you are in Tokyo.
That's incredible.
I really hope they do
I
it.
do too. Given how much of a pain in the butt it is to get in, well, not so much with Haneda, but Narita, that would be such a good idea to be able to just fly into Osaka, especially regionally, and then get into Tokyo that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, is it good for layovers? Osaka is next door. Osaka is a fine city. Osaka has amazing food. Alex, you will discover it
Yes,
soon.
we're doing a show there.
Love that city. So yes, it's a good airport for layovers. So any flights coming up?
You to San Jose in 2 weeks, and then while I'm in California, I'm of course going over to Boston on JetBlue Mint Suite on their A321. So I'm looking forward to that.
Nice. Yeah, well, as I said, I have
Yeah, you're bouncing all over the place.
Yeah, it would be an Asia month, maybe even 2 months. I'm going to, first I said to Italy. Now I'm going to land at Pisa, which I said has the worst freaking lounge in the world. I'll report back if that's still there when I come back. Whilst I'm in Italy, I have to go to Paris, Charles de Gaulle for one night, and then come back. Then I'm going from Pisa to Rome with Alitalia. I really hope they are there.
Still there,
because
yeah.
then I'm connecting to a flight, and it's a different ticket, to Seoul. Then I'm going back from Seoul to London, and that's pretty much when we'll be able to record, because just a few days later I'm going to Manila. I mentioned it earlier. I haven't decided of my route yet. That will be done today. And then back from Manila, I'm going a week later to Bangkok via Singapore, as I just mentioned earlier in the show. So yeah, lots of travels, but we will find time to record because even though Alex will be in California, he will have his microphone with him. The advantage for me is that for him it will be breakfast, and for me I will have a nice glass of red wine or a beer while we're doing this. Anyway, guys, it was a bit longer because the next show will be a little bit delayed, but happy travels.
Safe travels, guys.